We all want the freedom to be our true selves, and for most of us, we do have that freedom. It might even be something you've never had to consider, and we are the lucky ones. But not everyone is willing to grant those freedoms to others, and in fact, some people are hell-bent on taking them away, and sometimes in the worst, most betraying way possible. Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. Welcome back to Legendary Crimes Exposed. Be sure to join the quickly growing Legendary Crimes family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Thank you so much. On February 24, 1985, Gwen Jacobs was born to Sylvia and Edward in Newark, California. Gwen was born biologically male and was raised as a boy by her family throughout her early years. Her family referred to her as Eddie. However, Gwen's childhood was not without its challenges. Unfortunately, her parents divorced when she was just 10 months old. This separation undoubtedly had an impact on Gwen's upbringing and on the family dynamics, although it is worth noting that sometimes separations are for the best. Despite the apparent difficulties she faced, Gwen continued to navigate her journey of self-discovery. It was then that she began to explore her true self. In the summer of 1999, Gwen, who was 14 years old at the time, confided in her mother about feeling like a girl trapped in a boy's body. She expressed her desire to live life as her authentic self. Gwen now began using the name Gwen, inspired by her favorite singer, Gwen Stefani. However, she also went by the names Wendy and Lita. Her decision to grow her hair long and undergo hormone treatment, along with planning surgery for her transition, marked a significant turning point in her life. She was now determined to embrace who she was. However, along with her journey came the harsh reality of bullying. In junior high school, Gwen faced relentless bullying due to her voice. The cruelty she endured from her peers was deeply hurtful and affected her emotionally. Despite Gwen's best efforts to stay strong, the constant ridicule took a toll on her well-being. Recognizing the need for a fresh start, Gwen made the difficult decision to transfer to an alternative school. This new environment promised a chance for acceptance and understanding. Gwen hoped to find a community that would embrace her for who she truly was. However, the challenges didn't end there. Despite finding some respite at the alternative school, Gwen decided not to return for the 2002 to 2003 school year. In an interview, Chrissy, Gwen's best friend, expressed her admiration for Gwen's beauty. According to Chrissy, Gwen was considered prettier than all of their friends combined, and she particularly admired Gwen's hair. Gwen had a dream of attending a beauty school in Fremont, California, but she would have to wait until she turned 18. This dream was an important goal for her, and she looked forward to pursuing her passion for beauty in a professional setting. Additionally, friends, Gwen and Chrissy had made plans to move to the city together, further fueling their excitement for what life had in store. Gwen's mother, Sylvia, was well aware that her daughter's gender identity could possibly put her in danger from those who failed to understand or accept her. Sylvia, as a loving and concerned mother, made it her priority to educate Gwen about the potential dangers that awaited her in the world. She wanted her daughter to be fully aware of the risks that she may face. Sylvia's worst fear was that something terrible might happen to Gwen, and solely because of who she was. During the summer of 2002, Gwen found herself spending time with a group of men. These individuals were Michael Magidson, Jose Merrill, and Jason Kazuris, all 22 years old, and Jaron Neighbors, who was 19 at the time. On the night they all first met Gwen, she engaged in playful banter with each of the four men, and they even shared in smoking a mild illicit substance together. However, after Gwen departed, Jaron posed a question to the other three men, asking if Gwen could potentially be a man. Despite the inquiry, none of the four men took the question seriously. Later, Gwen found herself in a situation where she engaged in relations with both Michael and Jose. However, during these encounters, Gwen felt that she must conceal her identity as a trans woman. She claimed to be menstruating to stop either man from discovering her truth. One night, a woman named Nicole Brown found herself at the men's lively party house, and she engaged in an unexpected and intense physical confrontation with Gwen. Nicole happened to be the girlfriend of Paul Merrill, Jose's older brother. The atmosphere of the gathering was initially friendly, but tensions escalated when Nicole and Gwen clashed. Nicole approached Gwen with a rather unusual request. She urged her to perform a striptease act to reveal herself for the men present at the gathering. It was an unexpected and bold suggestion, leaving Gwen understandably taken aback. The atmosphere in the room suddenly shifted. The gravity of Nicole's words sank in, and because Gwen didn't want to do what was asked of her, the fight began. In the aftermath of the altercation, Nicole shared her thoughts and feelings about the incident. She revealed that up until that point, everyone had believed Gwen to be biologically female. However, following their heated altercation, Nicole began to question Gwen's gender identity. She admitted that Gwen's fighting style resembled that of a male, and Nicole wouldn't let it go. Michael, Jose, Jaren, and Jason now all had a deeper discussion about Gwen. They questioned her biology and reached a collective conclusion that something bad could happen to her if she was. In the early morning hours of October 4, 2002, Gwen found herself at a party hosted by Paul and Jose Merrill. Little did she know that this night would take a dark turn. As the party progressed, tensions rose and a confrontation ensued. It was Michael who initiated this argument. He brazenly asked Gwen if she was biologically male, a question that caught her off guard. As far as she was concerned, she was simply hanging out with friends. Gwen, taken aback, denied the accusation and now attempted to distance herself from Michael's escalating aggression. Fearing for her safety, Gwen desperately sought an escape route from Michael's clutches, but unfortunately, her attempts were thwarted. Michael instead forcibly locked her inside the bathroom alone and trapped her. Gwen wondered how she would find a way out of this harrowing situation. It was at this critical moment that Nicole, Paul's girlfriend, entered the bathroom, determined to uncover the truth. She pressured Gwen into revealing who she was. Then I said, and I took my hands and I spread her legs as hard as I could. I went like this and I grabbed the D. Reluctantly, Gwen disclosed that she was indeed born biologically male, a revelation that would have significant consequences. With this newfound knowledge, Nicole made her way outside and then shared this news with the men. This revelation seemingly hit them hard, sparking a reaction of shock and anger. The news was particularly overwhelming for Jose. He was said to be so affected by the information that he vomited. Despite the chaos unfolding, Nicole tried to provide comfort to Jose, urging him to release Gwen from being confined in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Gwen seized the opportunity to escape and began navigating out of the house, desperate to find safety and solace. At first, they didn't even do anything. She was just sitting in the bathroom the whole time. They were all in shock. When she came from the bathroom, that's when Mike attacked her, and they tackled her down. I'm sitting there like, you need to calm down, and I said, we should let this person go. So I looked in the back and now, she jumped off the counter and she walked out of the house. And then here comes the boys, Jason, Jaren, and Mike. Michael, however, stopped Gwen from leaving the house and dragged her back inside. Once Michael had Gwen once again in his grasp, he tried to pull down her skirt to prove what she had said. But Gwen, brave, fierce, and indignant, fought him off. Michael then upped the ante and proceeded to strike Gwen in the face. He then pulled her into a chokehold, but he was pulled off by Jose, Jason, and Jaren. At this point, Nicole and Paul had left the party. I said, this is way too much for me. This way too much for, I said, I got to go. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I got to go. And that's when I walked out and went to leave. Jose then decided to take his feelings out physically on Gwen. He too struck her in the head so hard with a dog food can that it was left dented. However, he wasn't done. He then walked over, grabbed a frying pan, and struck her once again. During this terrible attack by Michael and Jose, Gwen was heard pleading for her life, desperately explaining that she had a family and expressing her sincere apologies. She never meant to cause trouble but only wanted to be accepted. Unfortunately, her pleas were brushed aside. The group showed no signs of stopping, and the situation only got worse when Michael forcefully slammed Gwen against the wall so hard that she left a noticeable dent and crack in the plaster. Gwen lost consciousness. I need a sharp knife or some rope, and I gave him. They used the rope and tied her up. When the blanket was wrapped around her, I saw the feet, ankle around the ankles. And then when we put it in the truck, I saw a rope around the neck. Seizing the opportunity, Michael swiftly bound her wrists and ankles, ensuring that she would remain immobilized. In a chilling act, he went on to throttle her with a rope, not releasing her until Gwen was no longer breathing. Once Gwen had succumbed to this cruel fate, the men proceeded to handle her lifeless body. Devoid of any remorse, they wrapped her in a blue comforter, concealing the aftermath of their heinous act. Once the four men had wrapped Gwen in the blanket, they embarked on a journey to the Sierra Nevada mountains. Driving for 4 hours, they sought a secluded location deep in the El Dorado National Forest near Silver Fork Road in El Dorado County, all in order to discard Gwen. They chose a shallow grave to be her final resting place. In an astonishing display of indifference and heartlessness, the four men made an unexpected stop on their way back. They pulled into McDonald's as if the events that had just unfolded were inconsequential, a callous, heartless group of men. Gwen had a habit of regularly checking in with her mother. It was their way of reassuring each other and maintaining the strong bond that they had always held. However, Gwen did not return home as expected, leaving Mother Sylvia feeling increasingly anxious. What could have happened to her precious daughter? On October 5, 2002, Sylvia decided to take action. She contacted the authorities to report her daughter as missing. She hoped that her call would initiate a swift response, that authorities would rush to locate Gwen and ensure her safety. Unfortunately, though, Sylvia's concerns were not taken seriously by the police. Gwen, being a trans woman, quite possibly could have played a role in the authorities' dismissal of Sylvia's report. At least one of the men that carried out the terrible act was being haunted by what he had done. Jaron Neighbors, unable to contain his guilt, or perhaps wanting to brag, made the grave mistake of confiding in a friend at school, telling him about his involvement in Gwen's murder. Obviously alarmed by Jaron's confession, the friend immediately took it upon himself to contact the police. Now recognizing the importance of this information, the police convinced the friend to cooperate and wear a wire, therefore capturing a conversation with Jaron. Equipped with a hidden recording device, the friend bravely engaged Jaron in a conversation, deliberately seeking to elicit further incriminating statements. Their conversation drew out the information that they needed, as Jaron ultimately admitted his role in Gwen's tragic end. Armed with this undeniable confession, the police wasted no time summoning Jaron for an interview. Now confronted with a damning recording, Jaron realized the gravity of the situation and made the fateful decision to finally tell the truth. He revealed to the police the location where Gwen's lifeless body would be found, providing them with a crucial piece of evidence and providing Mother Sylvia with the answers that she so desperately needed. Jaron Neighbors, on February 24, 2003, pleaded guilty to a charge of voluntary manslaughter. This charge came with an 11-year prison sentence. In exchange for his plea, Jaron agreed to testify against the other 3 defendants. The first trial for Michael, Jose, and Jason, however, ended in a mistrial. During the trial, the jury did unanimously agree that Gwen had been murdered. However, they could not reach a consensus on whether the murder was premeditated. It is worth noting that the defense attorney representing the men utilized a particularly controversial defense strategy, a strategy known as the trans panic defense. This defense essentially attempted to shift the blame onto the victim, Gwen, suggesting that she was responsible for her own demise. Right in the eye. Look me in the eye. You all look, seriously. No, not seriously. I know that you were there when you heard that. When they started questioning him about his sexuality and what sex he want. Can't say that. You know what? I don't know. After the second trial, the jury deadlocked on Jason, unable to reach a unanimous decision. Eventually, Jason pleaded no contest to manslaughter on December 16, 2005. As a result, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison, a small price to pay for his involvement in Gwen's murder. Moving on to Michael and Jose, they were both found guilty of second-degree murder. Consequently, the 2 men received a sentence of 15 years to life in prison. From the bottom of my heart, I'm deeply and sincerely and truly sorry. I wish I could go back to that horrible day and erase it. This case was based entirely on lies. Lies by the witnesses, lies by my co-defendants, and worst of all, these lies were encouraged by the prosecutor. I received nothing remotely close to a fair and unbiased trial. Jason was released in July of 2012. Similarly, Jaren was released sometime before 2016. Also in 2016, Jose was granted parole with the support of Sylvia, Gwen's mother. And finally, Michael was denied parole in September of 2019. In September 2006, California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger signed the Gwen Jacobs Justice for Victims Act. This act aims to address the unique challenges faced by transgender individuals who are victims of violent crimes. It recognizes the specific vulnerabilities and discrimination faced by this marginalized community, seeking to provide greater protection and support for transgender victims. Do you think the punishments fit the crime here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again? Please do let me know down in the comments. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.